I thought if we ever broke up, I would feel this tremendous sense of relief. I could go back to being myself. But something happened. I fell in love with you or something. And I stopped being a loner.
Dylan, I think that's wonderful.
I think it's terrible.
You can look the other way once, and it's no big deal. Except it makes it easier for you to compromise the next time. And pretty soon, that's all you're doing is compromising because that's how you think things are done.
Using his vast knowledge of history and politics, we start our day off right with motivational speaker Richard Battle.
Love having him on the program. Mr. Battle, how are you doing, my friend?
Good morning, Al. Thanks for having us back lead off once again.
No, it is absolutely our pleasure. Interesting topic today, and I presume you do this on purpose. This would be too weird if you didn't. So in the state of Minnesota, our fine state, we are seeing two different sides to a coin when it comes to leadership. You've probably heard of a bit of fraud that we've had going on here, and how do we deal with that? There's one leader doing that. You've got the president of the United States who's put a spotlight on us, and every one of the department heads are now looking at whether they can come in here and find some more fraud. I mean, it is how you handle pressure. What do you do with it? And I think we're seeing a lot of different ways of handling it. That's why today you want to talk about real leaders and how they handle challenges. This is going to be a good one today, buddy.
Well, yes, and part of the reason is we talk history sometimes and patriotism, and I wanted to throw some leadership in because we've been on history the last few weeks, but the contrast and comparison of good leadership and poor leadership in good times and bad, I think it's interesting to back up and look, and I think most of the listeners will recognize people as we talk that they've had experience with. And as I always say, success or failure, it's always the leadership. Leadership is what makes the difference.
Yeah, well, I would say yes or no. I've in my lifetime, I've been with some organizations where I thought the leadership might have been poor, but at the time things were going so good in the country that the company almost succeeded with because besides their failures, you know what I'm saying? You can have bad leadership and it can get covered up, right?
Well, that's exactly the case, and that's the negative part of good times. In good times, poor leaders get by. There's no pressure. Success obscures their lack of capabilities, and you can't replace them in good times because they're stumbling and bumbling, and even every hog finds an acorn every once in a while. And so you have to wait until bad times show up for them to be exposed and be able to replace them, and hopefully with good leadership.
Which I presume is exact opposite then when there are challenging times. What's going on in Minnesota. Poor leaders will be exposed that much more, right? I mean, when it gets tough, that's when the tough get going.
Well, exactly. What happens is they get exposed, the pressure comes on, and it's like in teaching in baseball, what causes players in the field to make errors is usually a panic. And a ball's hit to them and it gets to them in a way that they're not expecting or used to. Yeah. And they panic trying to make a play and they make an error. And that's the same thing with poor leaders. When the stress and pressure shows up, they panic because they're not prepared, don't have the capability, they're surprised, and they don't know how to respond properly. And so they react in a panic type situation to that pressure.
And then I presume when doing that, you don't make your best decisions when you make something out of panic. So then that magnifies that issue. So what's the difference in tough times and good leaders? What?
Well, the good leaders in tough times, I mean, they are confident. They've got experience. I mean, as they say, experience is the best teacher. And that is so true, because if you've experienced pressure of a certain type, you know how to respond to it the next time you see it. And that's one of the things with the DEI that the country's gone through lately. People have been thrown into positions where they were not capable to handle tough situations. And as we say, they can get by when things are okay. I mean, you can almost not even have a leader in there when things are running smoothly. But when that pressure shows up, how will that leader respond? And the good leaders will remain calm. They still retain control. They don't make rash decisions So when they're under that pressure, they sit there and really observe and ascertain what's going on before they respond with their decisions at that time.
Apollo 13. When you were describing that, Apollo 13. But you know what I'm going with? That the guy that was the mission control guy, getting the short haircut. I'm not gonna remember his name now, but they had to get the oxygen back in, the carbon out, and he just everybody's going where they're gonna die, and he just like throws on the table all these parts that are in a ship. Said, "All right, people, figure out how to make this thing out of these parts." And he didn't. He wasn't mad. He goes, "Just figure it out." And they did. When you were talking about that, that's what I got. He didn't get upset. This is what we got, and he just did it. You shook your head. Did you know what I was talking about? That was
absolutely. That's a fantastic example. Gene Kranz. He said failure is not an option, and so he immediately set the bar of what their task and objective and what success would look like. And he did throw all the parts on the table, gave it to the engineers, and they had to sit there and craft this on the ground and then be able to instruct the astronauts in space on how to build what they came up with. It was a terrific example of leadership under pressure. And that could have caused those guys deaths, and yet they maintained their composure to go through it in a methodical way to get that solution.
I'm just glad that's when you were talking that stuff. Apollo 13 hit my head. That guy. I'm glad you were with me on that. So tough times. If you're a poor leader, what happens? I mean, I get that you can see what you're talking about there, Apollo 13. What about a poor emotional leader?
Well, first thing is that they're emotional. You can tell they're nervous. That takes away confidence from the team. They'll start having failures on their team, and the failures build. And as the failures build, the confidence in the leader and the team goes down. And so people all of a sudden start expecting to lose and you can see this again on sports teams as well. You expect to go out and get beat by somebody better than you are. And so that pressure makes it tough. They overreact. They make rash decisions. They throw team members under the bus and blame other people for the mistakes versus taking the responsibility of the team's decisions and covering and protecting their team members.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense to me. Let's do this. I've got to go to break. When we come back, let me ask you this, and you can think about it on the break. Can you fix that? Is good leadership / poor leadership an instinctual thing, something you're born with? If I were to look here in Minnesota, back to the governor seems to be reactionary at the moment. Can he catch his breath, say, okay, may not have been my greatest move here, and then get his feet back under them? Or is this, are you who you are? Can we talk about that after the break?
You bet.
All right. I've got him, Richard Battle, on the Al Travis Show.
This season, bring the whole family to see Irving Berlin's White Christmas. This smash hit musical based on the classic film returns by popular demand to delight you at Chanhassen dinner theaters. With loads of laughter and a stunning showcase of Irving Berlin songs, White Christmas is a celebration of the romance, friendship, and magic of the holidays. Make your plans today to see White Christmas. Visit chanhassendt.com.
When the stakes are high at the Minnesota Capitol, you need more than a lobbyist. You need a partner. At Momentum Advocacy, we bring nearly 90 years of combined experience in government relations, public affairs, and strategic communications. From nonprofits to national corporations, we help organizations navigate Minnesota's political landscape with integrity, insight, and results. Whether you need legislative champions or headlines, Momentum Advocacy delivers. For more, visit momentum-advocacy.com. Momentum Advocacy, your friends at the Capitol.
kidding me?
You know that comment you said to the radio? The thing that we got wrong?
Clearly, Brussels sprouts are the worst vegetable.
Call us and let the world know your thoughts. 855-257-7469. That's 855-ALS-SHOW.
I've got him, Richard Battle, and we're talking about good leaders. How do they, handle adversity, that sort of thing. I went to the break with you, Mr. Battle, saying, so if I know I'm not great at it, right? I've gotten along, times are good, I get to a point in a company, but I know I'm not good at it. Is there something I can do to get better? You brought up the baseball analogy. Balls hit out to the outfield, and you're not sure what happens because of the weird bounce. That's much more likely to happen when you're starting 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. But by the time you're playing high school ball or college ball, you've seen all those balls before, more confidence, I guess. Is there a way of working yourself out of it or into becoming a good leader?
Well, yes and no. And so that
Thank
goes
you.
back to the person. And what I would want to know when I hired someone, all of us learn from experience. And as I say, smart people learn from their experiences, brilliant people learn from the experiences of others.
Yep.
And if people are coachable, teachable, and will learn, they can develop and enhance better leadership skills. But you see some people who, one reason or another, they resist change. They're so threatened by making a mistake that they absolutely refuse to learn from it and keep wanting to do the same thing over and over and over again. And if they're that type person, they're going to be a problem consistently. If you get somebody young and they're teachable and coachable, you can take a mistake, learn from it, and they'll be better by having that mistake than if they'd never made a mistake at all.
So like the Apollo 13, let's say a challenge shows up. Is there a method to the madness, how to handle it? What does a good leader do? Step 1, step 2, step 3?
Well, yes, I believe so. And so first thing we have to do, and you saw that on Apollo 13, you have to acknowledge the situation and just think about the politicians we see, for example, who refuse to acknowledge bad news sometimes. And so the leader then has to maintain their composure, which creates confidence in the team. We have to look for the facts. What are the facts we have to deal with? And we can't pussyfoot around that. We have to really be honest about it, or otherwise we'll never get a good solution on that. And so then from those facts, what is the proper response to that situation? And we go through those steps. Before we implement, we have to, and this is often overlooked, what is the precedent we may set and what is the example we may set? Those two things are crucial in any kind of decision, whether it be a family situation or a business or government type situation as well. And so then we communicate to the team what we're going to do. We enforce the procedures, modify as necessary, and hopefully celebrate the victory.
I love that. I love that a lot. So, it's easy after fact. Back to this Apollo 13 thing, you see how they got to success, so you can bust that down coming backwards. But you can put almost any challenge in what you just described.
Well,
acknowledging
absolutely.
what it is, and just take it for what it is, then gain your, get your composure together, take the facts back to, this is all we got to work with in the space shuttle, boys. How are we going to fit? The entire time you're reading that, I'm just going through this, that is the ABCs of just decision making, whether you're good at it or not.
Well, and I think that's one thing I would encourage your listeners who may not be in the leadership roles that they want to attain, to observe leaders and learn from them and learn from the mistakes they make as well as the good things that they do as well, so you can develop and enhance your leadership skills as you prepare for that opportunity in the future.
I love that. The only thing that, after you say all that, I think about, back in the service days, we had, when we were done, we would go through everything that happened and come up with how we would have done it different. An after actions report is what they called it, because not everything goes perfect in any one deal. But, who forgot to bring the toilet paper? Oh, let's make a note. We always bring toilet paper to the front of the lines next time. It doesn't matter how big or how small it was. We looked at everything we did and then tried to make sure we wouldn't do that problem again. I presume that happens with even these. I presume the Apollo 13, they had a few after actions things. What could we have done better before we send people in space again next time?
Well, absolutely, and that's an essential part of any leadership or any kind of organization is what can we learn from the success or failure. Too often when we're successful, we don't look at things because we think we did it well,
Yeah.
and we don't want to look when we fail because we're looking for
Yeah.
somebody's head to chop off.
See, but that's like even a baseball game, football game. You can win a football game, say, great, we don't have to look back, but you know there were a lot of plays you didn't do everything right, and you can get better at
Exactly.
it. Now, I know you because most of this, I presume, came out of Made in America by AmeriCANS, not AmeriCANS.
This is one of the essays in Made in America by AmeriCANS, not AmeriCANS.
Well, I would presume, because I've read all your books, you've got a quote or two about people talking about this, because you're a quoting machine. Do you have one?
Well, I gave you some quotes right there, but the one that I want to give a movie quote that I love from Hell or High Water, and they had a big drug scene went bad, and the deputy sheriff took the sheriff Tommy Lee Jones. They both went out on horseback, and they're on this overlook, and they look down. There's dead bodies of people and animals and vehicles and everything, mayhem everywhere. And the deputy said, "Well, it's a mess," and the sheriff, without blinking an eye, said, "Well, if it's not, it'll do till the mess gets here."
Oh, there you go. That's a great movie reference, by the way. That is fantastic. Do we have time yet to get these books to people before the holidays? I mean, this is just one of the greatest Christmas presents between Made American by AmeriCANS, both of them made in Americans' 19th and 18th century. This threesome right here needs to be in everybody's library. Can they get them, sir? Can you get them to them before the holidays, or at least by the first of the year?
And they're all on Amazon, including Kindle and audio, which are instant.
Okay. There you go.
Paperback books, you'll have to check inventory on Amazon because they can get out real quickly. If you want them signed and inscribed, order them at richardbattle.com. Email me, richard@richardbattle.com, after you order, and they will go out today. But with the post office from Texas to Minnesota,
we'll
hopefully
see.
we can get them there by Christmas Eve with Santa and his sleigh.
I love that. Sir, you know I love having you in the program. I appreciate you being here, my friend.
It's always my pleasure. God bless America.
If it's your